All right, so let's look in the business overview. If any of you have not received the business overview, I'm about to give you one. All right, so look at the front page of the business overview. That's where it starts. On this, the business overview, the first thing I do is I read this story to them, or I have them read it to me. Okay, so there was a man who lived in a village that was 2 miles from the nearest water source. His job was to haul buckets of water to the village every day. Since everyone needed water, he had perfect job security. To earn more money, he would simply make more trips. After years of hauling buckets, he realized that if he didn't change something, he'd be hauling buckets his entire life. So he made a plan. He would haul as many buckets as he needed to pay the bills, and in his spare time, he would work on building a pipeline. He stayed consistent and persistent in his pipeline building efforts. A few years later, he finally finished the pipeline and turned on the spigot in the village. The villagers could come and get water whenever they wanted. He not only created a pipeline of water, but he created a financial pipeline that would allow him to pursue his greater cause and higher purpose in life. Are you hauling buckets, or are you creating a pipeline? This business overview will demonstrate how simply sharing essential oils with others can help you create a financial pipeline. At this point, I'd like to have a conversation with you and with them. Are you now creating a pipeline, or are you hauling buckets? And there are a lot of people who make a lot of money hauling buckets. In fact, when I first read this story, a similar story to this in a book called The Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki, when I was going to school with complete intention on being a dentist, that's what my undergrad was all pre-dent. I did not have passion for teeth, tartar, or cavities. Gingivitis, I didn't care. None of that. But they made a lot of money, and they seemed to have a good lifestyle, and so I wanted to be a dentist. Then I read that story, and it dawned on me, oh my gosh, I'm going to school to haul buckets. That story is so powerful when it clicks in someone's head, and they go, I actually am hauling buckets. And they could be making a ton of money hauling buckets. But if they're hauling buckets, they can't go and pursue the things that are really important to them. So then I get into, like I said, I just explained the story. Excuse me. Question is, are you hauling buckets? And then we get into the business overview. The first section is, why make doTERRA your pipeline? And the reason why this is important is because people need to realize that doTERRA itself is a fantastic pipeline because of all of these things, in particular the retention rate. Now, the retention rate in doTERRA is 65%. In fact, if you look right here, 3 times the industry average. 65% of doTERRA's customers order regularly, meaning at least once every 1 to 3 months. 65% of everyone who has ever signed up in doTERRA orders product on a regular basis. 4% order at least once annually. Now, in the network marketing industry, the number is about 13% order once per year. Okay, now the reason I bring that up is because the reason people hate network marketing so much is because they preach the pipeline without the ability to create a pipeline. Look, if I'm having to replace 87% of my team annually, calling it a pipeline, that's not a pipeline. That just isn't. doTERRA, why make doTERRA your pipeline? Well, first of all, it actually has the capacity to be a pipeline. Now, another thing that's cool about that number, I heard Corey Lindley say that 82% of everyone who's ever signed up in doTERRA has never enrolled another person. All right, let's think about that. What are we up to as far as wellness advocates? 2 point something million. 82% have never signed up another person. And yet, 74% of them order at least annually, and 65% of them order regularly. What does this tell you? It is a pipeline. And it tells you this. Product sales are independent of the opportunity. People buy the product not because they are building a business in doTERRA, but because the product value stands on its own 2 feet. Let me tell you, this is what's called the value proposition. Every Every business has a product that they market, and there's a value proposition to the customer. So what is the value proposition of, here, I'll give you a value proposition of one of the largest network marketing companies in the world that has a terrible retention rate. Buy everything you now currently buy for more than you now currently spend. That sounds awesome, right? And you're like, no, I wouldn't do that. I would never, why would I pay more for what I already buy? Why would I do that? And then they go, oh, but there's an opportunity. If you convince other people to spend more than they normally would spend on things that they normally buy, then you make money. And you go, oh yeah. And so what happens is you go, that's right, maybe I can talk other people into this. So then you start talking people into it because you're interested in the opportunity. I'm going to do something that does not make sense, that logically makes no sense, because there's an opportunity in place. Now, the minute that I am no longer interested in the opportunity, what's the first thing I stop buying? The product. That does not happen in doTERRA. 82% have never signed up another person, and yet 74% order every year. Do you guys see this? I don't know that there's going to be another doTERRA come along. Not in the network marketing space. And I've seen the professional network marketers that I thought, oh man, I got to go talk to so-and-so. He'd be so amazing. He's built a massive business in another marketing thing. And then they get in, they go, there's too much product education that needs to take place. There's too much. I can't handle that. That's just too much. Why do we have to go through this door 1 and 2 thing? Let's just do door 3, man. Forget the steak, sell the sizzle. That's the language they told me. Or, here's one. Seth, I heard you were doing doTERRA. I got this call when I first started doing doTERRA. This guy had created a downline of over 100,000 people in another company. Called me up, Seth, I heard you were doing doTERRA. And I'm like, yeah. He goes, why? Why would you do that? And I said, well, their products are incredible. And he goes, whoa, Seth. Rule number 1, the product doesn't matter. And I was like, and that is why you created 100,000 people downline and make nothing from it, right? Who cares if you build it and it lasts for 5 years? That's bucket hauling. I want something that's going to be around for 30, 40, 50 years until I'm dead and I can will to my kids. So product sales are independent of the opportunity. Does that make sense to everybody? Do you get why that's the case? All right, it's a new opportunity. 2008 is when this thing was founded, and yet all those buildings over there, doTERRA is a debt-free company with no outside funding, no intent on going public, and that, by the way, is one of the most important things when you consider the longevity of this company. I just learned that one of the most stable, most respected companies in this industry just changed their comp plan in such a dramatic fashion that all of their leaders left because all their checks were cut in half. And the reason why is because at some point that company became about consumed with making profit. And if a company says, oh, but you know what? Our company, our plan is to go public someday, and we're going to make our public, or our offering, our IPO, available to our field, and they can own stock in this company, which is all great and dandy, except that once you go into that realm, the only thing that matters is profitability. Profitability is king at the expense of quality. And so why did the founders of doTERRA not take in any outside funding? They said it was because they wanted to make sure that they could always have the highest quality oils available and that it would not be totally based on profit. Cool, huh? So those are all reasons why you want to make doTERRA your pipeline. Now, once I